Martin Luther King once said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." And this is a great quote for what is so-called analysis paralysis. And it's this idea that we can not jump into a project or start something because we don't feel like we've analyzed it enough, or don't feel like we have all the information we need to do or accomplish this project. And it's interesting because when you start a new adventure, when you start something new, you learn a lot from just trying and doing, right? You get a lot of experience and value from failing because you learn through struggle how to do certain things. And the irony is that analysis paralysis doesn't take into consideration, it doesn't add into the equation the value of just trying to do it, right? So like, I'll give you my example from gardening. I've always wanted to have a garden. We lived in an apartment for a while, so I was unable to garden. Especially I tried to do it in pots, but our apartment wasn't facing the right direction, that the sun wasn't there. So this past year I finally had the opportunity to do it last spring, and we were renovating our home, so we had a lot of projects going on. There was a lot of things I was doing, so I did not have time to ideally plan this garden at all. I basically just borrowed a tiller from my neighbor, tilled way too much land, like 1,000 square feet. And then I knew I wanted to do raised beds, but I didn't have the resources at the time. I didn't have the money. So I like raked them into kind of beds. And long story short, there were some good things, but definitely some bad things. It was probably 50% success from my crop, 50% totally failed. Like, there were so many things I learned. Sunlight and water and all the little elements that go into it, right? But this year, interestingly, I feel so ahead of the game because I've had all this experience, right? And I've freed myself to go and fail. And I have the freedom now from that to go and make better improvements. And it's really interesting because I would never consider the value of that when planning this garden, right? I would never consider, well, if I just allow myself to fail, then that will jumpstart me in the future. And that's exactly what this Martin Luther King quote addresses, is we think we need to have the end fully in perspective or fully comprehended, and we never will, right? And so there's a certain point where we try to convince ourselves that we have enough information, and that's when we do act. And I'm not saying that we should not plan, right? That's foolish. You should definitely consider the cost before you construct. But two, I think we undervalue the value of experience and failing. We don't give ourselves a lot of grace to fail in our culture nowadays. And so from this experience gardening, it gave me a really great lesson on the value of failing and how that jumpstarts you in the future. But it takes time, right? Like, I gave myself a whole year to fail, a whole growing season to fail. And now this next year, I feel so much ahead of the game, and that's going to compound, right? So yeah, just an interesting kind of reality for our rationalistic age. So not sure exactly where you're at, but just an encouragement that you don't need to know everything to jump into something, and give yourself some grace to fail. It's okay to embark on journeys or opportunities and fail. We think we need to go straight to where we're going all the time, and I think that's more damaging than helpful, because it makes us lose our wits. I think about this navigating sometimes. like, you know, we have our GPSs and we go straight to our destination. And there was once where, I don't know if my phone died or what, but I had to figure out how to get there without using the GPS. And it took longer, but it was really freeing because I was like an adventure, right? I had to go on this adventure. I didn't know where I was going to get to where, I didn't know how to go where I was going. And I remember it so much better because of it. You know, I know the turns much better. I remember that location much better because I was on an adventure to figure it out. And so, yeah, sometimes just mindlessly going to our destination isn't the best. It's good to give ourselves freedom and fail and not necessarily see the end destination. Just take those first steps. So don't take this as a excuse to go jump into something, right? Like, you know, there's things you need training for, but depending on your situation, you know, give it some analysis, but don't undervalue the experience that you can get and the help from failing. So hope this video was helpful, just a short one. I am on an adventure to discover a balanced, authentic life and just sharing what I learn along the way. I have some videos on the garden that I'm making, just me building it. That's something you're interested in, you can check it out. But until next time, take care.